Hello everybody, welcome to this week's edition of The Verdict with myself and James Willoughby. We're going to cast our eye on all things that happened at Epsom Friday and Saturday. How are you?
I'm very well, I'm raring to go.
Good.
Back on The Verdict after a little absence.
Yeah, we decided to give you another go.
Yeah, and with that in mind, I declare a very special classic verdict open.
Let's do it. Derby first of all, James, please.
Yeah, I'll be absolutely delighted.
What was your impression of this race as they immediately crossed the line? What was the first thing you thought?
Utter confusion.
Yeah. Are you still confused?
Yes.
Right.
Not helpful for a programme called The Verdict.
Program called The Verdict. No,
Yeah, no.
but
I've tried my best to understand it since.
Right. Let's identify the principles from the outset, shall we? Anthony Van Dyck, the winner of the Investec Derby, jumped from 7. Mad Moon right next to him in 6. Japan came from 11, James, right there. And then we had Broom from 8. And Sir Dragonet from 13. Those are the principles.
I think that's the most straightforward bit of the entire race.
We've got that bit right.
Yeah.
Right, let's send them on their way. What was the pace like early on?
Well, overall, the pace of the Derby was sort of in the medium region. There's no real way to sort of classify it anything apart from that. So theories that, for example, the early pace was too strong for Telecaster are bogus, really. Telecaster, I suspect. I'm not much one for the dark arts, but I think he blew the race before the start, didn't he?
Well, yes, he got very worked up beforehand. He was on his toes, he was edgy, he was taken to post very steadily. But this is more pertinent for as far as he's concerned.
It's just like a wild horse.
He is. I mean, he's pulling far too hard. He's far too keen.
Yeah.
He was pretty keen in the Dante. He got away with it there, but up 2 furlongs in trip and a quick turnaround as well after the Dante was all too much for him, and we needn't concentrate on him anymore because he stops 3 out.
And since there were 2 credible British challengers, that's 1 down already.
1 down after a couple
and the other
furlongs.
one, not in a great position towards the back there, Bangkok.
Yeah, he got involved in a bit of scrimmaging. He was too keen, and he dropped away quite tamely as well, trying this trip for the first time. He'll have another day. He also got a bit of a wide trip. Let's pick up the winner then, James. It wasn't all plain sailing for him whatsoever, Anthony Van Dyck, and he went in snatches a bit. He was on and off the bridle throughout the race.
Yeah, as we'll see as we wind this race on, he looked a most uncertain winner early in the straight. Of course, he brought some of the best 2-year-old form to the party from last year. He ran well against those Dubawi colts, Quarto and Too Darn Hot. And then his Lingfield Derby trial was very weak in the market before then. I think he probably needed that run. He's a very kind of straightforward horse, isn't he? There's no frills to him whatsoever. He can't quicken like a Mustang. He doesn't travel like a dream. He kind of is he's just a horse, really. You can see him there in the pink being niggled along. There's nothing exciting about him, but he was at the end when the music stopped more than anything else, wasn't he, as we'll see in a minute. I think probably the field have stretched themselves a little bit too far from home in the straight. Mad Moon, I thought in the Hamdankos there, ran one of the better races in terms of, you'll see that he stumbles at the bottom of this hill they're now about to descend. But there really wasn't a lot of substance in this race at all. Line of Duty, who's the sole Godolphin representative, really has not come on from last year. Broom, you've highlighted there, is wide, and of course in this country ground loss is not something we tend to major on a great deal, but if you did, considering the distance that Broom is beaten by a horse who's gone a much shorter distance on the inside, you'd have to move him up a length or 2. But look at Anthony Van Dyck here. I'm sure if you backed him, as some people did, he was O'Brien's 3rd string, and Barry or Betfair said he was one of their best results for their sportsbook, and people didn't really fancy him at all on the day. And he's not going to win there, is he?
No.
This is the point where the pace really quickened. If you look at the sectionals from 4 down to 2, and the horse that ran the 2 fastest individual furlongs in the race, 4 down to 3 and 3 down to 2, was this horse Mad Moon, who Chris Hayes, his rider, admitted afterwards perhaps got lit up by the fact that he stumbled and maybe put a little bit too much effort in. But as they come down to the Oz line, switch to the far side, they're probably impeding a stablemate, Anthony Van Dyck. The overall time, Angus, it's slow. Yeah, it's slower than Wings of Eagles.
It is. It's a slow overall time, and
it's pathetic. Really, they should hand the trophy back. Kidding.
It's 2 minutes 33.838. So it's a slow overall time. It produced a very modest time form speed figure as well, didn't it?
101, was it
101.
Not? Yeah, it's not a Derby winning figure at all. So what do you make of the 2019 Derby? Well, it's over to you, the viewer. Really, you can place upon this race pretty much your own interpretation, some wilder than others, some more some more fanciful, but really I think these are a bunch of 3-year-olds who are all going to improve at different rates, and with different emphasis on stamina and speed, they'll produce different results between them. I think this is very much the bag of sweets type race where you could have run it again, you'll get different results in a couple of weeks' time. Maybe Anthony Van Dyck will move forward more than anything else, and everybody will think that he was a truly meritorious Derby winner.
It's a puzzling one. I mean, 3 of the first 4 home were talked of immediately afterwards as being ledger horses. So I was immediately thinking to myself, well, are they just simply slow horses? But I went back and looked at their previous records, and you look at what Anthony Van Dyck did last year. He ran a big speed figure, around about 120, so he's quite a fast horse. And we know from what Broome did this year as well, in the Ballysacks, that he's a fast horse as well. So I've thrown that theory out of the window. So it's quite a puzzling one.
Yeah, and as I said, from the evidence of sectional ties, there's nothing you can really massively upgrade apart from Mad Moon. You maybe want to move him forward. We've talked about ground loss on this lovely head-on shot. Just watch the ground loss. You can see that. Remember that when horses travel 180 degrees, I'll give you the boring maths again, Euclidean geometry, every horse loses 1 length for every horse width it's out from the rail through the turn, through the whole turn, not just the half turn. So Broome arguably lost more distance than he was beaten by on the outside.
He's just there.
Because he swings out onto the bend, the long sweeping bend. So you can move him up. Anthony Van Dyck had the benefit of saving ground. Others went wide too. So I say ground loss is almost more of a... There, look, you can see he's maybe, given the full extent of the turn, he's lost over a length. And Broome, who many people think he's a St Ledger winner, quick and better than the winner of the Derby, Anthony Van Dyck.
He's got plenty of speed. I'm not having it that Broome's a slow horse. So Dragonet travelled better than most. That's where you get a bit of scrimmage in. Mad Moon gets briefly hampered by Sir Dragonet, who's drifting down the camber to his left.
But given that they had the winner's measure when all horses were in full flight, but then the winner came past them again at the end, the obvious inference is that 4 down to 1 section was a bit too fast for the horses to sustain. It doesn't show up massively on the sectionals. It shows up a little, but not so much you could definitely be adamant about it. But there has to be a reason why Anthony Van Dyck came past them at the end, having been flat out. Is he a stronger stare than... Well, he is, but his pedigree doesn't really tell you that necessarily. He's no more stouter-bred than many of them in the field, and so... Well,
the damn side of his pedigree is a sprinting.
The Australian mare is
plenty of sprinters in, so all the stamina comes from his dad, Galileo. You're confused, aren't you?
I understand that horse more than I do anything in the Derby. I just think sometimes there are races where... Maybe Epsom have this propensity as well, where you just need more evidence before you can really decode the proper pecking order. Now, a couple of years ago, on the verdict, Angus, we did this thing with... I did this thing. Let me take the credit for this.
Go on then.
I did this thing.
Yes.
Although I thought it was more our production together.
It was.
Where I showed that if you looked at the distances between horses at the end of the Derby, it predicted exactly their end of season ratings and their subsequent success as well.
Yeah.
In other words, it is true, it is a truism, but it's true at the same time, that the more the field are bunched, the worse the form tends to work out. So the exception this year, of course, is that British racing finds itself in this situation that not only do we not have any 3-year-old colts, but we don't really have that many great middle distance older horses either, as the Coronation Cup will reveal in a while when we get to that race. So confused I am. I hope you're less confused. Are you confused or not?
Very much so, yeah.
Yeah. Why was it such a slow time, given that the fact that the pace wasn't outlying in any shape or form? I'm not sure. So, yeah.
We need to see them all again, don't we? That's probably it.
I think you need to be honest sometimes. I mean, you can be hyperbolic and say this, that and the other based on flimsy evidence, but the evidence is you had a bunch of horses all quite closely matched. There's not a lot to upgrade them by from the pace of the race.
Yeah.
Ground loss provides maybe a little bit of light and shade, but apart from that, I'm struggling to kind of tell you that anything's good.